What's up? It's Jeremy Picker from Amber Creative.
This is Deanna with In the Zoning and Print Girl Mafia.
This is Ray Weiss with Printing the Night of the Lion.
You're listening to the Two Regular Guys podcast.
Hosted by Terry Combs RG, Regular Guys, and Aaron Montgomery.
The place to be for industry news.
The best dad jokes on earth, along with relevant topics to apparel decorators.
Fashion to the people.
Friday, March 21st, 2025. I'm Terry Combs. You can find me at terrycombs.com.
Yes, Terry, I don't know if I missed you at the front there. I had a little, no Eric here. So everybody calm down. It's going to be okay, but it's going to be a little janky here and there. So I apologize. Terry, would you start us over again, please?
I will right now. All right. Welcome into the show. It is Friday, March 21st, 2025. I'm Terry Combs, and you can find me at terrycombs.com.
And I'm Aaron Montgomery with our Success Group, and I love guiding business owners to more clarity and confidence in their business. And Two Regular Guys, Terry has always been a huge part of that. And I was just talking with somebody the other day, just how excited we are to be in our 13th season here of training and education. And so today we get to continue on. We had such a great discussion last week, and I know this is going to shock the regulators out there. We didn't get all the way through the content that we had. I don't know if that's ever happened. No, it's happened multiple times. So anyhow, we're going to talk about.
We went to 3 shows.
Well, I think there's probably some side bets going on with the regulators out there. Is this one going to be a 3-parter? But we'll see. No, our intention is we're going to talk about some just opportunities, right? Challenging times you can go one of 2 ways with that, right? You can look at it and go, oh my gosh, challenging time. Let me bury my head in the sand and sit on my hands and just hope to survive. Or you can say, oh, challenging times, opportunities. Where can I do more, be more, and get out there? So that's our hope, is we share some ideas and thoughts, and also hear from you guys, the regulators, about your thoughts on taking challenging times and turning them into opportunity. So I'm excited for that discussion, Terry.
Me as well. So also stay till the very end for the secret sauce. Aaron's going to be sharing some secret ingredients that will increase the perceived value of what you offer. And before anybody thinks that is Eric out sick again, he's not.
Nope.
Eric just had some prior things that he had to take care of, but all is well.
Yeah.
In the world of Eric Campbell.
Definitely. And I giggle because I was just thinking about the fact that basically Eric reached out to us and asked if he could take some time off, basically. And I giggle at that. I'm like, no, Eric, you can't. We're going to have to dock your pay.
Yes, so, this is a labor of love for all of us.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Especially Eric. And so, it's great that he had an opportunity to, like I said, take a little personal time to all is good on the Eric front, like you said, Terry. So thank you.
Exactly right.
All right. What else, Terry?
Well, I wanted to recap real quick because there was a development. Last week we were talking about the show in Long Beach wasn't what we'd all hoped it was going to be, but it was right in the middle of the Southern California fires, and we really think that kept some people away. So maybe that was it. But then Aaron, you had mentioned that the Kansas City show for Dax was a little better than last year, but not to the standards of the past.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you were in Irving. What's your thought about that?
Yeah, I think it was a rough go. I mean, just be honest with people. We don't need to sugarcoat anything. It was not what was expected, I think, from a lot of folks. So, anomalies happen, though. And I think that's probably, we just want to make sure that we're really clear. We're not here to try to start things or spread rumors or create something that's not there. It just is more of a, what are we seeing? And we want to share that with folks and then figure out ways, find solutions, right? How do we switch to finding solutions? So,
right. And, Aaron, we have the advantage. A lot of folks who are listening, they know what's happening in their corner of the world. And we obviously get to talk to people who are at all the shows, and people are here who are in all parts of the industry. Just
Yeah.
the nature of the two regular guys. We
Yep.
are in communication with a lot of folks all the time. But I got an update yesterday from the Atlantic City Impressions Expo, and the person I talked to said the show was busy from start to finish, right up until 5 o'clock on the first day. I did actually send a text about 15 minutes ago saying, "Hey, how is the show again today?" The fact I didn't get a text back means they're probably busy.
Yeah,
So
that's a good sign.
that's a positive note from last week. I don't think we were negative about what was happening in the trade shows, but I think we were cautious.
Yeah, yeah,
And,
yeah.
very good sign for the Atlantic City show.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, yeah, I'm glad we kind of cleared that up front. If there was any misunderstandings, I don't think there was, but you're right, Terry. We are really lucky to have the vantage point that we have, and that's our goal, is to try to share as many perspectives and vantage points as we can, from a place of how do we better the industry, right? And we don't. This is not for our jobs or anything like that. As you mentioned before, it's a labor of love, because we get to be part of this really cool industry that's been so really great to me, and obviously introduced me to one of my best friends in Terry here. So, that's pretty cool. All right. Well, speaking of amazing people and good industry, we had a chance to catch up a little bit before the show. And in fact, we almost start off late because we were having such a great conversation. But we've got Cassie Green from the Apparelist here, Terry, and she's got some news headlines for us.
Always great news from Cassie. So let's bring her in.
Let's do it, and let's see if I can find the right buttons and push them in the right orders, and we'll see how it goes. So let's talk to Cassie.
Hey, everybody, and thanks, Erin and Terry, as always. Very kind words. And yes, great conversation before we jumped on today. I am really happy to hear Atlantic City was busy and is busy. Good sign for the industry, right? So glad for that update. A couple headlines for all of you this morning. I hate to say this, but I'm kicking off with some Gildan news again. We all thought that this was over, but it's not, and it's fine. So, headline: former Gildan board members file lawsuit against the company. So, on March 7th, 2025, 10 former directors at Gildan Activewear filed a lawsuit against the company for $25.6 million. According to multiple news reports, they claim the t-shirt manufacturer failed to pay them deferred compensation following their resignation in the face of the activist shareholder campaign to reinstate founder Glenn Chimandy to CEO. So we covered this pretty extensively, but just in case, let's backtrack a little bit. The saga originates back to the end of 2023 and the sudden dismissal of Chimandy, which ignited an approximately 6-month-long battle led by shareholders, including Browning West, to reinstate him. After several back and forth disputes and lawsuits, Chimandy was ultimately restored as CEO, and that's when the entire 12-member board resigned. Now, fast forward to today. As per this most recent lawsuit, the claims range from a $5.7 million payout for former chair Donald Berg, all the way to a $221,461 claim for Sharon Driscoll. So, more information can be found on the link. Now, on to some good news for this week. Headline: industry partners launch Threads of Change podcast. So Apparelist, our brand, has partnered with Christine Shreve on a new podcast called Threads of Change, which aims to provide a safe and approachable way to have open-minded discussions on DEI, mental health, small business challenges, and more. The show will explore how to build diverse communities where all viewpoints and opinions are welcomed without judgment, how to support each other and provide resources to underrepresented communities, and to dissect challenges that business owners in the printing industry face. Episode 1 is now live on the Apparelist website, and Christine and I urge anyone that's interested in being a guest or has topic suggestions or just wants to chit-chat to reach out to us directly. Last headline for everybody today: All Made launches Our Power, Our Planet Earth Day contest. All of you, I'm sure all of you listening are not surprised I'm sharing this headline, right? All Made announces its Our Power, Our Planet Earth Day video contest. The winner will receive an all-expenses-paid trip for 2 to Honduras to witness firsthand how All Made t-shirts are produced. From now until April 20th, 2025, AllMade invites participants to create and share a short Instagram and or TikTok video reel demonstrating their dedication to sustainability. The video must be between 15 seconds and 1 minute and 30 seconds long. You can tag at AllMade Apparel and use the hashtag Earth Day with AllMade. All entries will be reshared by the AllMade team, and a panel of judges will select their favorite. And of course, the winner will be announced on Earth Day, so looking forward to that. That's everything I got for you guys today.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Cassie. Appreciate you coming in, delivering the headlines, and yeah, interesting stuff. I love the podcast idea, Terry. I know I've had people actually say to me before, and I think at this point it's not as much, but when we were earlier on in the podcast, people would go, "Oh my gosh, there's another podcast. Are you guys upset?" I'm like, "No, absolutely not. The more we can talk and as an industry about important topics, right? Like what they're talking about is very important to be discussing. I would love to be a guest on that. So I guess I'll have to reach out directly, or Cassie's right here, so I raised my hand. Terry, it's pretty cool, and
Yeah.
obviously the Gildan thing. I love how she's like, "Well, I thought we were done with this, but no, there's more to come."
I give some advice to all of my screen printing class students, and I think I'm going to give it to the Gildan board members right now. It's just a T-shirt. Nobody dies. You guys need to chill out a little bit.
Oh, there you go. I love it. I love it. All right. Well,
Problem solved.
there you go. Problem solved. And yeah. So we've got Ramona checking in here. Ramona. We've got Ramona Needles McKee checking in. She says, "I missed the news. I'll have to go catch it." And I'm trying to do a better job of getting it up there a little bit more timely, but just if anybody's curious and you do want to, like, you know what, I just want to go hear what's happening in the industry. If you go to our YouTube channel and just go look up Two Regular Guys over on YouTube, we do actually have a playlist that's just industry news, and we do put the date on there so you can kind of to dive in. I'll try to have that updated this weekend with this particular episode. Sometimes it takes me a little bit to get them cut and put up there, but yeah, I think that's really cool that we get an opportunity, to do that. Same thing with the secret sauce, by the way. You can go use Terry's 5215 idea and, use those secret sauce episodes as your training tool. So
Exactly.
all right. Well, speaking of Ramona being here, we've got some other folks checking in with us this morning. We had Craig checking in from Boston earlier. Thanks for being here, Craig. And there we go. And we've got Doug checking in. So we got both coasts covered. We got Boston over there on the East Coast. We got Doug over on the West Coast. You're in Phoenix. I'm in the central part, right? And, Cassie in Colorado. So we can get the show rolling.
Exactly. I always feel a little extra pressure for the dad joke when Cassie's on, because she's the one in our intro that says the best dad jokes.
That's true. So we have a standard to live up to. Well, how are you feeling about this one, Terry?
I feel pretty good about it. I don't know what you think. Well, you tell me when we're done.
All right. Well, yeah. Actually, the real decider is regulators. You tell us when we're done. All right. Here we go, Terry.
Aaron, why do scuba divers fall backwards out of the boat?
Yeah, I was never sure of that, Terry.
Yeah, because if they fell forward, they'd still be in the boat.
See, I thought it was a good one. If they fell forward. Okay, makes sense, right? I think that's what makes a good dad joke, when you go, all right. That doesn't need to be funny, but it's kind of funny.
Exactly.
Thank you, Terry. Very good. Very good. I agree. It lived up to the standard. So,
All right. Before we dive in, we want to thank everybody for checking out the Two Regular Guys podcast. We still need your voices. We would love to have more regulators participate in the show intros. Go to decorators.ink./intro, read a few sentences, be a part of every show. Don't be left out. we are always looking for new guests. So if you or anyone you know would like to join us, go to calendly.com /2, the number 2, regular guys, to book a future episode, or email us at info@2regularguys.com with your show ideas. If you're listening to the podcast version of the show, we would appreciate you sharing the Two Regular Guys podcast with all of your industry friends so they can become regulators too. We would appreciate you giving us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Podcast, YouTube Podcast, wherever you do your podcast listening. We are there. We would love to have you go and comment for us. And if you're watching us live right now, please join in with your comments and questions on this timely subject.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And just real quick, referencing back to the dad joke, Terry, you did get full approval from Cassie. She says that is why these are the best dad jokes. So there you go. And Ramona follows that up, fall into the boat. Duh. All right. Well, as you mentioned, Terry, kind of timely topic. We've already even started talking about it a little bit. Terry, would you just kind of maybe, we've already obviously recapped just a hair, but can you give us a little bit of a recap of what we talked about last week for anybody that missed it? And if you missed it, please go back to last week's episode. It's actually already out on the podcast. I was timely on it. So it's in the podcast, and you can find it on our YouTube channel and all that kind of fun stuff. But give us a little quick recap here, Terry.
Yeah, first of all, recognizing the reality of the market. So we talked about slow trade shows, and hopefully with our news from yesterday that's not going to be an ongoing situation. Businesses holding back. We talked about, I talked about a few people who were working with Equipment Zone on direct to film printers and waiting to find out what happens with TikTok. And let's be honest, there's economic uncertainty. Some people, the sky is falling, and some people are like, finally, something's happening. So, it's from every direction here, but it makes people, sit on their hands a little bit. But Aaron, let me say one more thing about this. I am not convinced that we're in a slowdown. I still think that consumers are still buying decorated apparel and decorated products. I think it's the business owners that are being more cautious than the consumer. That's my opinion.
Yeah. I think that's a really good point, Terry, because you can go look at different stats and numbers and stuff like that. We can make anything tell the story that we want to tell, right? Because I was reading about consumer spending being down. Well, but does that mean, like you said, is consumer spending in apparel decorating down?
Right. Because I'm not seeing that. And maybe some of our listeners can tell us, my business is down 20% or my business is up 20%. But, since you and I are not active decorators, you more than me. But anyway, I'm curious about that. And I don't think it's going to be 2008 where in every trade show, remember all the vendors, we get together on setup day, and I think this is going to turn the corner. I think this is going to be a really good show. That went on for about 18 months.
Yeah. Well, Terry, the funny part is that's when I'm like, I'm going to go take a break. That's when I went to Boston and coached volleyball.
Right. You know what? I totally forgot.
2008 was great for me. 2008 was perfect for me. I was living my best life, coaching volleyball every day, and wasn't here. I got sucked back into this Hotel California.
Exactly right. And I'm sorry, you go ahead.
No. I just was going to say, and so we talked a bit about that. What else do we talk about?
Well, we talked about tough times creating opportunities, and we had this conversation when was 2008, 15, 17 years ago. That all the folks that said, the economy put me out of business. The economy didn't put you out of business. The economy just nudged you because you were standing on the edge of the cliff and getting by because there was so much business available. And when the business dried up just a little bit, hanging by a thread, that thread snapped. So yes, it's easy to say that, the terrible economy wipe me out. Well, there were plenty of businesses that they had to, and we're going to talk about some strategies
Yeah.
and how to deal with these situations. But there were plenty of companies that survived and thrived in the downtime.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you
And
know,
if I can
it's
add to
an
that
easy
real quick.
excuse.
Yeah. Yeah. And to kind of add to that, I've been, in fact, getting more and more conversations going about pricing right now with something I got coming up, and pricing's been a big part. I didn't. So every time somebody kind of comes into the OSG community, meaning they sign up for our email list or join our Facebook group or things like that, I always try to ask everybody, what's the biggest challenge you have in your business? And I finally had enough data to kind of run some of that, and what I discovered was 85% of people, it was pricing, and it was one of the biggest challenges they had. And in some of those conversations, what I realized is, as business owners, we're so passionate about what we are doing that, like you said, the economy didn't do it. It just pushed you over the edge because maybe we didn't have the right foundation. Maybe we weren't really sure that, I mean, we can reference back to US Screen. We didn't know that they were going out of business, but every time we sold a product, we were going further out of business. We just hadn't actually turned the lights off yet.
Yeah,
And
exactly
and
right.
and so the economy, you get to a certain point where, okay, you kind of get smacked upside the head and go, oh crap. So I always talk about it as, if you don't have a good foundation in your business, you don't know your numbers, things like that, you very well could be marching your way out to being out of business and you just don't even know it. And the problem is sometimes we go so begrudgingly to that point that we also hurt ourselves personally and debt and et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, I think that's really cool.
Aaron, I mentioned this last week, but it deserves to be repeated. There was a major manufacturer here in the U.S. that during COVID, or is it the disease we shall not speak of? But
The thing.
during COVID, we all got an email, and it was almost like an apology email.
Yeah.
And it basically said, we haven't raised our prices. I can't remember the number of years. It was either 8 or 10 years. We haven't raised our prices in 8 or 10 years. And letting you know that we are going to have to do a price adjustment due to the economic times. And of course, I read that and I thought, wait, nothing has changed in your business in 8 to 10 years for you to not change your prices? Or were you just, or you were just making less and less and less money up until you were forced to raise your prices? And
Yeah.
interestingly enough, that same company, I think since then, has raised their prices like 5 times. They
Wow.
must have realized, you know what? The bottom didn't fall out. Everybody
Yeah.
didn't run away when I raised my prices.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And, unfortunately, Terry, there's just a lot of fear involved there, right? Again, we're so passionate about it. We so badly want things to work out that we're willing to do things that in hindsight go, maybe that wasn't my best decision ever. Right. So,
yeah,
and
will all my business go to my competition who didn't raise their prices because they're opting to continue to lose money?
yeah, exactly. Well, that's a perfect segue, Terry, because now we always try to have an outline. It keeps us on track, right? But we do,
Are you
shockingly
skipping
enough,
somewhere?
we do bounce around a little bit, right? And so I know last week we did a little bouncing around, but let's really see if we can try to turn the corner for the rest of the show here today, Terry, into, okay, we know all of the stuff, right? The past, what happened yesterday, economy, going back to COVID, all that stuff. But what do we do now? What's the next step, right? I think, what you were just talking about really is that kind of idea of learning from those past experiences, not looking at them as failures, but as learning opportunities. So you talked about, who survived and why. Is there anything else there that you need to
Well,
feel like we should bring to the table here?
yeah, I think that the people that really excelled took a good hard look at their business, and regular listeners hear me say this a lot: be your own consultant. Take a step back, look at your business, and maybe open your mind a little bit about how you can change up some things. And it's just. I've talked to so many people over the years that, well, I've been doing it the same way for 20 years. well, good on you for making that happen. But
Yeah.
the world has changed, and Aaron, we were talking about before the show. I have 8 stories, and I just repackaged them. When I would go in years ago, when I would go in and consult in screen printing shops, and I would suggest the smallest change, and it was like panic. And my example was in the art department where they would log every film positive that went back to the
Yeah.
screen prep department.
Yeah.
And I said to the art director, so when you do that log, what do you do with it after that? We'll put it up on this shelf. And I said, so all these books, these 3-inch binders are logs of films that have gone out. And she said, well, yeah, every single one. I'm like, besides you, whoever takes this off and references it? No one. Well, I want you to stop doing that then. I want you to stop doing this log. If no one has ever looked at it since you've worked here, let's stop doing it. And she went straight to the president of the company and said, hey, Terry wants me to stop logging the film positives as they go out. And he goes, well, why? And Terry says that nobody ever looks at it. Do they? No. Well, then he's right. Stop doing that. Stop spending part of your day doing that. And I think that's true of every part of our business. When things are on a downturn, maybe it's time to review what we're doing and tighten up a little bit. I used to say, every screen printing shop I ever went into to consult was an opportunity, because I've never been in a shop that there wasn't room for some improvement.
Yeah.
And because, again, things change, technology changes, and maybe our markets change, but we didn't change the way we go about servicing that market. So take a step back and I think that the people that survived 2008, the people that survived COVID, did a little bit of that. And Aaron, I think we even mentioned it last week. We just had those monthly cocktail parties during COVID. It was an opportunity for a lot of business owners to have a cocktail, relax a little bit, and start chatting with each other about, what are you doing? What are you doing about the PPP or whatever it was called?
PPE. No. Yeah. Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yes.
The business loans and
Yep.
and everybody that sat in on that, I think, gained from it, because one person said, well, I figured this out. The next person said, well, I figured that out. So, I guess it also means reach out to your fellow decorators.
Yeah.
And if you're not comfortable doing it in your own town, come on here and reach out in the comments.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what blows me away, Terry, is like, we have everything we need right at our fingertips. So we live in a time that's beyond amazing, more than anything else, right? That we can have every Friday, these 2 goofy regular guys show up, and all you have to do is comment, and you're going to get smarter, and you're going to learn something, and you're going to have a new perspective. So yes, I think that's pretty cool.
The 2 goofy regular guys and Eric.
Yes, and Eric. So, okay, not to change the subject, but I just had like a realization deep down inside of me, Terry. I was telling you about, because you shared the part about how you have 8 stories that repackage, but you didn't share the part that I said, but yet I still can't wait for him to tell the story again. That's Terry's genius. But now I've also realized that not only is that Terry's genius for him, but he's also like, I tell that story in some of my seminars.
I like when people tell me, hey, I've heard that story before, but it's more colorful every time you tell it.
Yeah. Well, I may embellish a few things here and there. Right? No. All right. Well, let's keep going here. Right. You did talk about, being a consultant, and you kind of alluded to, where can you tighten up? Where can you spend less time doing something that doesn't need to be done? But also, where can you maybe, tighten the belt financially too? And to me, that's always a really slippery slope. All right. Like, I have seen so many times people go, well, I can't afford that anymore. I got to cut that. I got to cut this. And then they're in a worse spot afterwards because they didn't realize what cutting that actually meant. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, yeah, of course, being spend a lot of time in sales, you always cringe a little bit, thinking, "Oh, well, they're either going to, I've got to have all my production people, so I'm going to cut sales staff or cut commissions."
Yeah,
And the person who's more scared is the marketing person. Oh, they're going to cut marketing.
yeah,
Well, those production people that you have to hold on to, guess what? They're not going to have any production to do if you don't have sales and marketing, or you try to, the salespeople make too much money, and that one always gets me because I want, if somebody's working for me in sales, I want them to make more money than anybody in the company, because if they are, that's how much business they're bringing into us. So,
yeah.
what was it? And I'm not going to have the details of this, but was it Circuit City years and years ago that decided that their top salespeople were making too much money,
Yeah, I
and
think
so they cut all the top salespeople. And why? Because anybody can do this.
yeah,
Anybody can sell. And so soon after, every one of their stores closed,
yeah.
and
I'm
many people here are like, Circuit City, what the heck was that? Yeah,
exactly. I was going to say there's probably listeners here that have no idea what Circuit City was, right?
exactly.
Yeah,
It disappeared with without a note of anybody remembering, other
yeah,
than probably at Harvard Business School they teach it.
yeah. It has a story to be aware of. Well, and here's another side of that, Terry, that showed up for me. So I don't know how much I've shared. I know I've shared with you, but like publicly, 2024 was not the best year for our success group. Just financially and whatnot. I got to a point where I just made some that decisions, and we, I was getting monthly membership dues from folks, and I just didn't feel like, at the end of the day, they were getting enough value out of it, because I didn't see them taking enough action with it. Right. And I kept hearing all the great testimonials and feedback. Oh, this is great. I just haven't had time to do anything with it. And I'm like, okay, well then why should I keep taking their money to be putting these things out in the world that they might use at some point? So all the members, they still have access to all that stuff that they could use or not use. But I made that difficult decision to say, okay, no more memberships. We're going to focus on the masterminds. We're going to try to find people that take action. But that was a tough call, and I didn't do well kind of making that transition. And so at the end of 2024, I was at that place going, this is a downturn for sure. And I had a couple of decisions to make. I could, again, sit on my hands, try to cut off expenses and tighten everything up, or I could invest. And I made an investment, a bigger investment than I ever believed I could make. I knew I could make the investment, but it was a money set point that I had, that I actually hired a coach. I got over my ego and said, okay, I need somebody to help me see what I'm not seeing. Just like I'm able to sometimes help other people see what they're not seeing. I needed that for myself, and I made that investment. And so if I would have kind of had that, like, I just have to tighten the belt mentality, I think our success group wouldn't be happening any longer. But
Well,
the fact that I was willing to say, you know what, I'm going to figure it out. I don't know how I'm going to afford this, but I'm going to figure it out, because I know I need to do something differently. Right. And so that was another one of those things where it's like, I'm not suggesting when times are tight that you go out and spend more money wildly, but it was very calculated for me. I said, okay, here's what I need. I spent time figuring out who I needed in my corner, and it's been the best decision I ever made.
that's awesome. That's a great testimonial for looking at our businesses and fresh eyes, Aaron. It's
Yep.
when again, back to when I was doing consulting 30 years ago. Uh, yeah, I know some of you weren't born yet when I was a consultant. Whatever. but I would go into shops, and again, repeating a story. I remember I did a 2-week consultation with a company that just couldn't. They had orders coming out the ears, and they couldn't get the product out the door. And the president of the company, when I'm doing my end of consultation presentation, he's like, "Terry, we already know 80% of this." And I said, "I'm sure you do, but you had to pay me to come here to tell you that you're not doing anything about it."
Yeah.
You know what's wrong. You're just not fixing it.
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
amount of paying money to me is going to bring you out of this problem you have, unless you're also willing to do something about it. And that's
That's
kind
right.
of what you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I didn't go looking for a magic bullet. So if you're making investments into that next thing that you think is going to be the magic savior, that's not it. But when you're making investments back into yourself and your business, that's it. That's the answer. Right. So,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. All right. Well, let's get a couple of the comments here. Rena suggested, we could start having mimosas with the two regular guys. I mean, I'm actually a big fan of mimosas, Terry. I'll be honest with you. Um, so,
I believe for most of those, I either had a beer or a Captain and Coke. So
yeah, you can have those too. That's fine. And then Ramona, when I was saying about borrowing your stories, Ramona said, after all these years, you can lay claim to the story. So at some point, Terry, it might become my story and I'll just have been there through you.
in my classes, when somebody says something that's and I learn in those classes too. Every class, I feel like I learned something, and I'm like, that's an awesome idea. Next class, I'm gonna go back and give you credit for it. After that, this is going to be my story.
That's right. And then this kind of spoke to what you were speaking to earlier, right? Like we're interested. What are you guys really thinking? We get a perspective of talking to different people, and I have heard plenty of people that says that this is a challenging time. But Ramona says, are we in a challenging time? I guess I'm not seeing it. I might not be working a steady 10-hour day every day, but I'm okay with it. I like having some time off, right? So there's a good reframe. What's your thoughts there, Terry?
Well, 100%. And that goes right back to what I was saying before. Is it the end consumer or is it us? And I
Yeah.
think a lot of it is us. I was talking to somebody just a couple of days. Well, I guess it was yesterday, who about a week or so before, he was telling me that business was down a little bit, and he was asking me, should I expect this? I said, well, it is early in the year,
Yep.
and a lot of folks, don't really gear up until spring. But at the same time, he sent me a video of doing an outside event, hockey event,
Yeah.
and doing shirts and explaining how DTF transfers work, and he had everything with like stuff sitting on top of it because it was so windy.
Yeah.
And but he was cranking out shirts, and then last night I get the video of, oh, and this happened. Just total hail. All these kids are out there on the outside ice rink
Oh man.
playing hockey in hail.
Ouch. Well, they had helmets
But
on, so
but you know what? But he was out there, and I guess part of what he was doing to help his business, because he does a lot of contract DTF printing, was get out there in the public and decorate garments right in front of people. And anybody who has ever done that will can tell you that 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 people ask for a business card because they said, "Hey, do you do custom work for businesses? Do you custom work for schools? Do you
yeah.
And it's the one of the best ways ever to get out in the public and get business, and go to a farmer's market where somebody's selling T-shirts, and just watch and see how many times somebody goes, "Hey, do you have a card?"
Yeah.
And why? Because they want custom printed apparel. So get out there in front of people. We talk about our buddies down at Printed Threads in Fort Worth.
Mhm.
Their big thing before COVID, and they're back to it, is going to like bars and taverns with live music because they're all musicians. Yeah, I know everybody in the industry, but
For us.
printing shirts with song lyrics on them while the band is playing that song. And then, oh, by the way, hang around after you buy your shirt. The band's going to come back here and sign them, and the band's back there signing all those T-shirts. And
That's
it's
cool.
just it's a cool event. It's a fun event. You're out in front of people. Oh, by the way, do you have a business card?
Yeah,
So
absolutely. All right. Well, I was just looking at the time, Terry, and so we're on point 2 of 4, and inside these points, we have about 4 to 5 bullet points. And on point 2, we still have 4 bullet points left. So here's what I'm thinking. can I share these 4 bullet points?
Yes.
And if there is discussion, great, we can do that. But then can we move on and see if we can get the rest of these tackled?
I don't know. Can we? We'll
I
see.
don't know. We do not know, but we're
Well,
endeavoring.
maybe I should just mute my mic.
Where's Eric when we need him to mute your mic, right? I think I could probably do that too, but that wouldn't be fun. All right. So really what we're talking about here is how do we strengthen our business and maybe gain some market share? And so we talked about learning from the past. We talked about cutting the right costs. The other thing that we thought of is kind of the power of niching down. We talk a lot about niche marketing on here, kind of becoming that go-to expert in your space. Another way that you could potentially strengthen your business is really just strengthening the customer relationships that you have. Valuing that relationship, and when you show that you value that relationship, like truly value it, not just, hey, thanks for the order. Right? No, thanks for being a part of my business. Thanks for that relationship. Thanks for being willing to give me feedback when I did something wrong. Things like that. I think that's really important to strengthen those relationships, because otherwise, then it's a price war, right? Like, oh well, the guy up the street does it cheaper. Okay, great, but do they have a relationship with you like I do? That type of thing. And I said we weren't going to talk about it, and I did anyhow, Terry. So, okay, brand differentiation would be another one. Standing out while the customers cut back, or while your competitors cut back. I think that's a really good brand differentiator. And then in today's world, Terry, I think leveraging your story and into more content, right? You talked about getting out there into the public more. I did a marketing seminar at Graphics Pro, and the big point was stop overthinking marketing. Marketing is simply making people aware of what you do and what your values are. Right. And so when you continue to tell that story, you're going to build loyalty that people buy from people we know, like, and trust. So more storytelling, more storytelling, more storytelling. Right.
Yeah, the folks who are on Instagram or TikTok, they're not necessarily looking for a slick presentation. They're looking for the interesting story. They're
Yep.
looking for the relationship. They're interested in what you're doing. And,
Yep.
and a screen printing shop, everybody goes right to the press because they've never seen it done before, or a dozen other ways to decorate. But the gentleman I was talking about yesterday, who was doing DTF live at an event,
Yeah.
he had printed the transfers already, but he was demonstrating to people how shirts are decorated, and people eat it up. So
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Cool. All right. Well, Terry, I'm going to then turn over the third point here to you
okay.
and let you go through those and add anything you want to add, because this is definitely in your wheelhouse for sure. But talk to us a little bit about positioning for long-term success.
Absolutely. One of the things, and you mentioned this investing, you investing monetarily in a coach, investing in efficiency. There's
Mm.
easier. I had someone tell me recently they bought an air driven dual heat press, and he said of all the equipment I own, it was the best investment I ever made. And why? Because it made him more efficient. Smart marketing in a downturn. Basically, where to spend and where to cut back.
Yeah.
Collaboration over competition. Find strategic partnerships out there. It's a new world, and the head to head, I'm better than you kind of competition is not as prevalent as it once was. And then the last point, adaptability and innovation. How the most successful business stay ahead. And we talked about this early on. Take a look at your business. Adaptability, what's changed and how can I take advantage of it? So
Yeah. I love it. I love it. All those things so important. Even speaking to that last point there, adaptability and innovation, right? Like that goes back to what you talked about with investing in efficiency, but just investing in general. Adaptability comes from being willing to put your neck out there a little bit. Being innovative is not a like just automatic, oh, I'm innovative and everything works out right. Being innovative typically comes with a lot of stub toes, right? And you got to be willing to take a little bit of that pain here and there. But that positions you for long-term success because you are able to, well, I can't remember the exact quote, and so I'm not even going to try it, but basically, the successful people have just failed enough times to figure out what works for them.
True enough.
Yeah.
So,
For
what's
sure.
the takeaway, Aaron?
Yeah. And this is what I'm excited to get to. And I'm also excited to hear from the regulators as to, over these 2 weeks that Terry and I have been talking about this, what are you guys hearing, seeing? What are you putting into action? What is the takeaway that you're saying, okay, I can do that right now, right? So let's start with Ramona's comment here. She says, I don't personally create graphic transfers, but I feel I have a great vendor in Todd to allow me to offer the services to my regular local clients, right? So adaptability. Right? Like she doesn't need to go print transfers, but she can adapt, right? Find a partnership, strategic partnership. You brought that up, Terry. So that's awesome. Cool.
And I tell people that all the time. Listen, if you're doubtful, buy transfers. And then once you build your business, then you can look at buying a machine. But make a little bit less money while you build the business.
Yeah, absolutely. And that goes, like, the strategic partnership thing for me too was crucial and still is. In fact, I'm working on some partnerships right now that I'm really excited to talk about. Hopefully soon. I still can't, but uh, anyways, yeah, I mentioned the struggles that I had kind of at the end of 2024. That big thing that also helped was that willingness to open up a little bit more and really focus more on actively seeking out partnerships, right? So some people know, big part of what I do and what I feel is a way to really support people is through mastermind programs. And I've got two very thriving groups that I get to work with through our success group. But I also realized other people have communities that have people that need that help too. Somebody that I met through the speaking circuit, she's not in this space. She actually is in the wreath making space. I did not realize that. Now I do. I mean, this is a huge community of people, all these amazing creative women that, for the most part, I've seen there are some guys in it for sure. Anyhow, they create wreaths that go on doors and other home decor area. It's a huge business. And so we were able to collaborate together and facilitate some groups together. So anyhow, all of those things are really important for us. But to get to the takeaways here finally, Terry, I'll just start and then we can kind of go back and forth here. Does that sound like a good plan?
Sure.
All right. I think, what I've heard you saying a lot for sure is this idea that we need to be our own consultants, right? Evaluate and then improve, right? That's one thing to go, okay, here's what's not working. Like you talked about with the guy that hired you and then was like all upset because you're like, I already knew that. And you're like, yeah, so that's why I'm here, because you're not doing anything about it. Right. So
100%.
All of this information is only as valuable as the action you take with it, to be honest with you. So evaluate, but then take some action, improve. Where can you pivot? Where can you optimize in your business? So that would be the first one, Terry.
Yeah. The next is keep learning. And obviously that's, a focus of ours always has been, and that's where this show grew from. But invest in education to stay ahead. That means go to trade shows, go to the seminars, even the free seminars, go to those, read the trade magazines, try new things, don't just read about it, go and try it, and well, very, very briefly, the person that worked for me that said, I know everything about screen printing because I've done it for 3 years. And I said, I feel like I learn something new every day, and made her cry. That, don't be the crier, be the person always learning.
Yeah.
Once you think you know everything about it, it's probably time to move on.
Yeah. I mean, so I was going to tell a similar story. When I mentioned to folks that we've been doing the podcast for 13 years, you kind of get this like, oh my gosh, you know everything there is about podcasting. I'm like, I know nothing about podcasting, to be honest with you. I still try to surround myself with, like, I was talking to a guy the other day that he's focused on helping people with their podcasts, and I just sat and listened to him. Right. And he's like, yeah, I've been doing this for 2 years. I'm like, cool. And then, he keeps talking. And he goes, well, how long have you been doing it for? I'm like, oh, 13. You could just see his face kind of go a little bit white. I'm like, no, keep going, man. I'm loving this. This is great, right? Like, this is good stuff. Yeah. So the second thing or third thing, sorry, you had second thing. Third thing here is when we talk about the partnerships and collaboration and stuff like that, collaboration over competition, as you mentioned, right? We need to build our network though. And I think that it needs to become something that we do intentionally. Again, as we mentioned earlier in the show, just showing up here and being in the comments is a great way to start building your network, right? Like Ramona is a great example of this. Like if she didn't show up here, I don't know if we would, maybe we would have had a relationship, but now I know Ramona. I want to support Ramona any way I can, those types of things. So, she mentions trade shows and being at trade shows. So building networks, but I will say this, Terry, if I sat there and said, okay, I need to grow my network. And so then I would go to like different networking events and stuff like that. I'm like, this just isn't working. And what I realized, I wasn't an active participant in my own success, right? So if it wasn't working, then what was I doing? And so I had to change my approach. And then I realized, okay, the events that I'm seeing available to me don't really fit what I'm looking for. So I went and created my own. And what happened when I created my own events is then I started attracting the right kind of people that I was looking to build into my network. And I realized that there were some events that I was just missing. So me starting my own events actually led me to find other groups. And so my network like expanded exponentially because of the fact that I went and started my own stuff. Right? So I think that's a really important takeaway that we can use from all the things we're talking about here, Terry.
Yeah. Last one for me is find small wins. Incremental improvements leads to big growth. And let me give you a quick example, try to be quick. I do a thing about how to improve or how to cut your downtime in a screen printing shop.
Yeah.
And I've got this whole process to find all the reasons that you have downtime.
Uh-huh.
But the key at the end is to say, take the thing that's costing you the most time and work on it, not all the other things. You can't, it's too big a bite to take all these things on. Take on one.
Yeah.
And work on it until it's improved, then go to the next one and work on it until it's improved. And you will find at the end, for like as a screen printer or any type of decorator, when it's all said and done, your efficiency, I've seen this happen. You can double your efficiency, double your output in 30 days or less just by working on the things that are working against your production. So
yeah.
Anyway, it's
what a powerful, what a powerful thing you just shared with us, Terry, that looking, like, I think you're right. I think we get to that point where we get motivated and we get inspired to say, okay, it's time to make some changes. And then we go and try to take this massive bite and you don't get to kind of enjoy the meal and digest it, right? You've got this, your cheeks are full, right? You just, let me savor that bite and let's make it the best bite we can make it. And then, So I was just looking up something real quick while I wanted to bring the last thing here, which is the mindset shift. And I think we've hit this pretty hard throughout the course of these two shows, but now's not the time to retreat, right? And so a lot of people like Ramona aren't even noticing it. And I think your point that you brought up here, Terry, that it's probably more us than it is, right? We're creating the slowdown. If you're sitting there going, man, my business is slow, look at how you created that, right? What are you doing that is, bringing slowdown in your world, right? Have you stopped investing? Have you stopped trying to innovate? Have you, constantly focused on the fear and the negative things that are out there? It is really time to plan and act. And so what I was looking up was Yoda's famous quote, do or do not, there is no try. So
that's great.
Finishing with a Yoda quote when it comes to mindset, right? Just do it. Just do or do not. That's inaction is also a choice, by the way, Terry. We think that, All right. Well, let's leave it at that. I think, man, we did a decent job. If I can keep the sauce tight, which I'm going to do my best, we actually achieved. So if you had a bet this was going to be a 3-parter, you need to pay up.
Hey, I did go and look at Eric's upcoming things, and I checked back to last week, and it's the same. So,
Thank you.
EricCampbell.com.
Yeah, we'll leave it at that. So, we think the take up is off today as well. He had to check with his boss there as well, and just kidding. But yes, EricCampbell.com. Let me see if I tried to be. There we go. So, see if there's any information over there, but there's already a ton of great stuff there at ericcampbell.com. So you can catch all of his previous 217 plus episodes. I realized, Terry, that his numbering system's a little bit different. So he's got 217 episodes, but he has a handful, 4 or 5 episodes that were like interview episodes that he didn't number those in. So he had 216, he did another interview show, and then 217 was still next. So it's closer to like 230 if I did my math correct.
He's not going to gain on us if he doesn't count everything.
I think he gave up. I think he gave up, Terry. All right. Well, what about you, sir? What's happening in your world?
I will be at the Equipment Zone booth at the DTF Expo that's in Mesa, Arizona, Phoenix. That's going to be April 1st and 2nd. You can find that at dtfexpo.com. Good friend Adrian Palmer is heavily involved in that.
Yeah.
My complete screen printing business course, my next available class will be at Atlas Screen Supply in Chicago, June 7th and 8th. And watch for all my upcoming events at terrycombs.com. How about you, Aaron?
Absolutely. Well, Terry, I'm officially announcing it here first. It's kind of been a little soft launch over the last 2 days here, but I am going to be hosting a free 2-part webinar series to learn how to set profitable value-based prices with confidence. And hopefully you come out of that with the confidence to finally start charging what you're worth. This will be live in April 4th and 5th, but they are recorded as well. So if you can't make the live, it's totally okay. Just register over there at osg.link/value. And for everybody that registers, you're also going to get a bonus workbook that I'm putting together. And then one other thing here, if you sign up, you also do get an opportunity to join an exclusive hands-on workshop that we're going to be doing live a few weeks later, where we're going to take all this information from the 4th and the 5th, and we're going to actually say, okay, let's sit down together as a group and let's implement this for your business. In fact, we're going to actually build some spreadsheets together to make sure that we're having a pricing strategy that we can actually put into use. And so if you register over at osg.link/value, you get all that stuff for free. And the workshops are a paid workshop opportunity, but you got to register for the free webinars to get access to that.
Yeah, spreadsheets. You and me with this.
I know. I'm going to have to share it with Terry and go, okay, buddy, how's this one look? Does it make you feel good? All right. And then last thing I wanted to share before we get into the secret sauce here is I do want to encourage everybody to get engaged. And this Facebook group is called the Entrepreneur Success Hub. And we're getting more and more members. It's growing slowly, but we're really trying to get that engagement and conversation up. And, so anything, if you're a business owner, get in there. No topic is off limits. And as long as we're supporting and a rising tide lifting all boats, right, we can talk about anything that you'd like. So jump over there. Even if you're already a member, jump in there. Jump in, comment on a post, start your own post. As I mentioned, a rising tide does lift all boats, Terry. So,
Absolutely.
All right. Well, we promised a secret sauce, so let's give the people what they want, and then we can come back and close it up. Sound good? All right, here we go. All right, you guys, welcome into the secret sauce. I wanted to share a few secret ingredients that you can use to move your business from bland to spicy and profitable. So how can you increase your perceived value? The truth is, customers don't buy on price. They buy based on how tasty the dish is that you serve, right? And in business terms, that's the value that you offer to them. If you are constantly competing on price, it is time to change your recipe. So I want to give you the top 3 ingredients. And then at the end, I'm going to give you a way to get a list of even more ideas and ingredients that you can potentially implement into your business to change perceived value for your ideal customers. So let me start with number 1. Number 1 is exemplary customer service. The way that you treat customers shape how much they value what you do. In fact, no matter what you sell, it is the service that your customers are looking for. It's the service that they're buying. Right? And so for you, what does that look like? Faster response times, personalized service, real human connection. I was talking to somebody just the other day and they were talking about how quickly they deliver office supplies. And they're like, yeah, we'll have it to you same day. And he's like, so take that, Amazon, right? Like there's the value. Could you increase your perceived value because of your customer service? And I would say yes. But here's the caveat. You need to determine what your ideal customers truly value. Customer service is a pretty broad term, and it can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So what does exemplary customer service mean to your ideal customers? Now, let me give you a quick fix here that you can maybe use to do this. So reach out to your top 3 customers over the next 10 days and actually connect with them. And I want you to have a conversation with them, not a sales call. I want you to have a conversation with them. Do not sell them a thing. Don't even open the door. Just have a conversation with them with the ultimate goal of answering what made you choose us over other options and what keeps you coming back. And that's going to tell you what exemplary customer service means to them. And then knowing that will give you the tools to be sure that you are providing that exemplary customer service that your ideal customers want. So that's the first ingredient. The second ingredient is the brand storytelling, right? Based on the customer service. Now, how can you expand your perceived value even more? And that really comes from telling your brand story, because that customer service is what your values are. That's your story. Tell other people why people buy from you. That's your story. Again, people don't just buy products, they buy into your story. So if your business has a strong why, or a reason, as we call it at our success group, behind you, and a passion that comes through in your messaging, people will connect with that. They could care less about price, right? When people connect, they are more likely to trust, engage, and buy from you without questioning the price. And that automatically increases your perceived value. Now, if that's a challenge, I want to share a quick fix with you. Share your brand story into everything you do. The more you share it, the better you're going to get at it. And if it's in everything that you do, guess what you're going to get really good at? Sharing your brand story, right? Things like, why did you start your business? What problems do you solve? How do you help people? Utilize your social media, your emails, your website content, your pitch at the networking event, the conversation that you have with somebody at the coffee shop. Constantly tell your brand story and make sure that it's communicated. And every time you communicate, it's going to get better. Okay. And then the third and final ingredient that I'm going to share here today, and then give you guys that opportunity to get some more ingredients, is value added services. Who doesn't love extras? Like, if somebody offered you a bonus for free, would that not make you go, oh man, next time I'm going to repay that value, right? And so it could be lots of different things that could happen here for you. Maybe you build a loyalty program, be the expert in your business and offer some free consultations. I love talking about strengths, values, and passions. And so as a value-added service, I just say, you know what, want to have a conversation with me about your strengths, values, and passions? Let's do it. Here's the link, sign up. Right? Maybe it's educational content. You start a YouTube channel with the sole purpose of not marketing, not selling, but educating, and see what that does to your perceived value, right? Even extended warranties or guarantees that seem like wild and crazy, that changes the perceived value of your offer. So it's not just about selling a product. It's about providing an experience that makes customers feel like they're getting more than what they paid for. Now, if you're curious how to add some more quick fixes into some more value added services, I have a quick fix for you here. Just pick one. As Terry kind of talked about earlier in the show, we sometimes bite off more than we can chew. So what's one simple, easy, free resource you can provide, right? Is it a follow-up service? Do you just say, okay, I'm going to start as of today, every order, I'm going to put a calendar notification that 2 weeks after the fact, I'm going to make a personal call to them. Or maybe you set up a monthly customer appreciation discount, right? Any of these small touches create loyalty, and that differentiates you from the competitors, and then therefore your perceived value is higher. All right. Now, competing on price is a race to the bottom. And so increasing your perceived value is the key to attracting better customers, charging what you're worth, and growing your business with confidence. So if you would like to get a white paper, a free resource of value-added services that I have, I put together some additional creative ways to increase your perceived value. I'm going to ask you to go to our Facebook group. And if I can find that link here, I thought I had it, but now I don't. There it is. Okay. If you'll go over to our Facebook group and start a post about perceived value, I'll do the work. I'll make sure I reach out to you, and I will message you with the white paper if you start a post. Now, if you're not comfortable starting a post and you want to just direct message me on Facebook, you're totally welcome to do that. But I will ask you in some way, shape, or form to provide some value to the group, either engaging, being part of the conversation. A rising tide does lift all boats, and I've got to make that tide rise. So there are just 3 simple ingredients that you can use right now to increase your perceived value. And that was your secret sauce for today. Maybe. All right.
That was a really good sauce. Take
Thank
that,
you.
Amazon.
That's right. That's right. Well, Terry, man, great job. Appreciate another wonderful conversation. I know that Two Regular Guys is all about interviewing people and bringing people in, but man, I have to be honest with you. I really love when we get a chance to have these conversations. This is really where it started, you and I sitting around the bar, eating chicken wings and drinking a couple beers together and just talking about stuff like this at a little deeper level. So
exactly. So sometimes we have to go back to that, and great job as well for putting that together.
Yep. And well, you already mentioned everything's good in Eric's world, but I would thank him for everything he does, even though he wasn't here today, still a big part of the show. So thank you very much, Eric.
Terry, my friend.
Yep. 100%. All right, Terry. Well, next week we've got, I'm just going to say Angie because I haven't verified her last name, how to pronounce it. And everybody knows that that's my nemesis, my downfall is name pronunciation. But she's with a company called the Shirt Shack, which is in Ohio. And she was somebody I think you met her too at some different events. So she is a regulator just like you guys. And, she's going to join us to talk about business to business selling. And I'm really excited about this conversation, Terry.
That's a great subject and looking forward to that. And Aaron, until then, I'm Terry Combs. He's Aaron Montgomery.
And that was the Two Regular Guys.
Here we go. We're out.
Awesome.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Two Regular Guys. We're here because of listeners like you, and we're so grateful to have you on this journey with us. For more valuable insight, be sure to visit our website, 2regularguys.com, and join the conversation on our Facebook page. And hey, if you or someone you know has expertise, a unique perspective, or a story worth sharing, we'd love to have them as a guest on the show. Just reach out. Remember, success in this industry isn't just about the equipment you own or the techniques you've mastered. It's about the mindset you bring and the connections you build. Keep learning, stay curious, and don't be afraid to think differently. Keep pressing on, and we'll catch you on the next episode of the Two Regular Guys.